Hey everyone, so this is kind of like the follow-up to that video I did, I'd say it's nearly 2 years ago now, on my complete guide to MAC foundations, which kind of needs to be not really updated because I wouldn't do the whole video for you again, but there is a new foundation coming in beginning of next month, and one foundation was discontinued there before Christmas, and there's going to be another one discontinued very soon, so I will be doing an update on that. But this I was supposed to do shortly after that last video, and it's my complete guide on MAC concealers. It's kind of good in a way, I suppose, that I've left it to now because there has been a lot of coming and going with the concealers in MAC over the last couple of years, and I have a feeling it's going to settle down for a while now because a good few new ones were brought on the market, so well, kind of relatively recently. But I will start off by saying I think MAC do some of the best concealers on the market. I think you could easily forego foundations and live off their concealers completely. I have no foundation on today, my base is completely just concealer, and I think because of the different formulations and stuff they do, that you can happily do that. I'm going to start off with what I would say is arguably my least favourite of their foundations. I have a few notes here, so I will be popping down or looking down for info. So I'm going to start off with the Select Moisture Cover. It's one of their longer running concealers, and it is, I'd say the reason I would say it is one of my least favourite is because the newer formulation concealers are made to really last on the skin and like not crease as much and stuff like that. This one is more concerned with moisturising. I mean, it is obviously great for anyone with very dry skin and who really does struggle with finding concealers that are too dry on the skin or that aren't moisturising enough, but I do find that the more moisturising ones do crease. I can't really use this on myself. I do like to use it on older skin sometimes, but I don't find that the coverage of this is amazing. So let's just get down to the nitty gritty of it first. It is $18.50 here in Ireland. All the concealers, pretty much bar the mineralised one, are $18.50. I think it's $18 then in the States. It's a 5ml product, which is 0.17 US ounces, so you don't get a lot of product. It comes with one of these wee applicators, so what's that called? A doe foot applicator. So it mightn't be the most hygienic. If you're using it for your kit, you would need to put it either onto a very clean hand or onto a palette, and then you could use it on clients, otherwise you can just use it on yourself. This comes in 14 different shades. It is sheer to medium coverage, so I find that it's just not enough coverage personally for underneath my under eye circles. This is what I find is best for, is under eye circles. It can be okay for redness if you use the NCs, which is obviously the yellow shades, but it wouldn't be the most coverage in the world. So it is more kind of for brightening and evening out rather than hardcore concealing. What it says on the website would be that it's line softening, skin perfecting. It gives a natural satin smooth finish. So I would say that it does dry to quite a satin finish. It is a nice product. Definitely probably avoid if you have oily skin, unless it is just for around the eye area. You may need to use a corrector if you're very discoloured underneath the eye, and then you could use this to even that out on top. It could be great for that, but like I said, it would be my least favourite of the lot. The next one, which was my favourite for a long time until the next two I'm going to speak about came out, is the Select Cover Up by MAC. This is, first of all, it's very good value. It's €18.50 and $18, I believe. It is, so 10ml, which is 0.33 US ounces. It says here it's a sheer to medium coverage, but I actually feel that this is more coverage. I think this gives quite a good coverage. I'd say it's more of a medium coverage. Maybe, I mean, obviously sheer if you don't put on that much, I suppose, but it is quite a thicker consistency compared to the the Select Moisture Cover. I personally love the applicator. I think it's brilliant for professional makeup artists because you can just squeeze a little bit out onto your work surface and it stays extremely hygienic. You're not letting loads of air into the product or anything like that. This guy comes in 13 different shades. What it says on the website is that it's liquid camouflage for the skin and that it's texture free and virtually invisible. I find that this is absolutely gorgeous on the skin. It really does even out perfectly. I love this as a substitute for foundation. It has a lovely fluid consistency without being, it's not watery, so it would be more of a thicker fluid consistency, but it's not cakey by any means on the skin. It's beautiful for around the eye area as well as on blemishes. I'm not a big fan of using liquids in general for blemishes, so if you have anything that's very red or like that requires a lot of concealer or corrector, this mightn't be the best thing for, you know, general face issues, but it's brilliant for around the eye area, just for evening out skin tone. If you have like, you know, pigmentation issues and stuff like that, this is absolutely amazing. I find that you can wear it underneath the eye, which I think is so important, without having to set it with powder, which is what I don't find with the moisture cover. I absolutely love this product and I think it is a great little guy. But I do have new favourites, so I'll go on to those right now. The next one I'll talk about is kind of my favourite, and this is the Pro Longwear Concealer. This is one of their newest ones, or newer ones. The Mineralized came out since, yeah. This one is also a liquid consistency, but again, kind of like the Select Cover Up, it's more of a thicker liquid consistency. It's not very watery. They all tend to come in different packaging. Like, actually all the concealers come in very different packaging, which is kind of funny, but this one is in a little glass bottle. So one thing I do find is I've heard a lot of people saying that they've dropped it and it's smashed, which obviously isn't the best thing in the world. This comes also in a 10ml, no, it's a 9ml, which is 30 US fluid ounces. So it's still quite good. It's $18.50 again, or $18. Now, it comes with a pump, which normally I would say is brilliant. I love anything that comes in a pump. One of the problems here is, though, it's almost impossible to control the amount of product you dispense, yeah, with the pump. You would think that if you only put a tiny bit of pressure on, you'd only get a little bit out. That happens, I'd say, luckily, maybe 30% of the time. The rest of the time, no matter how careful you are, you get way too much product. So there can be wastage with this. What I tend to do is try and keep a sample pot nearby, and even put a little bit into the sample pot so I don't have to constantly waste loads every time I put it out. It can also get a little bit messy, so I'd nearly wipe it down after every couple of uses so that it doesn't get super messy, because when you do get a lot of product around the pump area, this product, one of the reasons I love it so much is that it sets, it dries. You don't need to set it with powder if you don't want to, but when it sets and dries around here, it can be very hard to remove, so that's one thing to keep in mind. So as I said, it's a 9ml. This one is more medium to full coverage, which I think is fantastic. You can use this definitely as a foundation substitute. Most of my face today is done up with these guys. It comes in 15 shades, and it's one of the only concealers that they kind of have a longevity claim in the wear of it. So it says that it wears up to 15 hours. It is extremely well wearing concealer. I use it on nearly all my brides nowadays. Photographs beautifully, it wears beautifully, it just lasts so long. I much prefer it to the accompanying foundation. I'm not a huge fan of the Pro Longwear foundation, but I absolutely adore this guy. It says that it's a comfortable natural matte finish. Natural matte being different to matte in that mattes traditionally used to be quite dry looking, quite flat, whereas a natural matte will have still a little bit of, say, light reflection in that it's not totally flat, but it's not shiny or shimmery or anything like that. It is quite a nice natural, I'd say almost satin finish. And this is what this is. So I think this is fantastic. The downside, like I said, being the fact that you do apply too much, so it would be nice if they did maybe adjust the packaging or something to do with that, but I think this is an absolutely brilliant product, and this is currently my favourite pick of all the MAC concealers at the moment. So that's the Pro Longwear by MAC. Then the next concealer, which I believe is like their newest or one of their newest concealers, it's the Mineralized Concealer. This guy is slightly more expensive now than the other ones. It is €20. I think it's $20 as well. I know it's a little bit more expensive everywhere, even though it's only 5ml. So if you consider the fact that you get twice the amount of product in here and it's less expensive, but you could say that this is kind of a nicer consistency as well. This is an absolutely lovely formulation product, or concealer product. It is 5ml, which again is 0.17 fluid ounce, or US ounce. They say that it's a medium coverage, again with a natural luminous finish this time. So I find that this is moisturising without being kind of like watery or wishy-washy, which is what the moisture cover I think can be a little bit. Now when I say moisture watery. Obviously it's not watery. It's just that the moisture cover for me is a little bit too fluid, and it just doesn't set enough on the skin, whereas this is still moisturising, but it does set a little bit better on the skin, which is what you want for concealer without being drying. So for it to set and not to dry is really, really good. It's what you want in a concealer, and it's what the older concealers used not do, the newer formulation concealers do. This contains minerals and nourishing botanicals, so it's one of these more enriched formulations, which which pretty much all the mineralized products from the MAC range do, and that's probably why we're paying this little bit more for it. The applicator, again, is completely different to all the rest of them. It comes in a similar bottle, say, to the moisture cover, except for it has a wider cap, and instead of the like spongy applicator, it has little brush on the tip. So again, you want to just be careful when you're applying it on clients to make sure you put it onto a work surface first, a clean work surface, and then you can work with the brush. This comes in 16 different shades. Now all the mineralized products by MAC are going to be repackaged soon, and I believe they're going to have this kind of hourglass figure like what this guy does, so it's wider and then it gets thinner. They have a new foundation coming out soon which is going to be similar, and I really kind of like the new packaging of this, so it'll be interesting to keep a look out and see if this changes again, or if they'll all kind of fall into line with this. But I think this is another really, really nice concealer. Again, just a little bit of pity about the extra pricing. One of the final concealers that MAC do now is this guy here, which is the Studio Finish Concealer, and this would be the one that I say is the go-to one for blemishes, for like tattoo coverage, for anything that really, really requires that more like hardcore concealer or corrector or anything like that. This guy comes in a 7 gram. Yeah, it's grams rather than mils because it is solid rather than liquid. So it's in a 7 gram, which is a 0.24 US ounce. Again, it's $18.50 like most of the rest of them. It is, I think, a very, very high quality concealer. I think it'll pretty much cover anything. I would put this nearly on par with, say, my Vichy Derm Blend or the Dermacolor, those kind of really good camouflaging kind of concealers. This one does contain an SPF though of 35, which is quite a high SPF, and you would be worried about flashback, but for some reason, and funnily enough, I've never really found that. It's kind of like with the Vichy concealer. Do I have it in front of me? No, I don't, but the Vichy concealer also contains a really high SPF, and again, it just doesn't really cause that flashback on camera. I think that's to do with the high concentration of pigment that the formulations contain, so it's just not really an issue that I've really come across. Now, the particulars of this guy, like I said, it contains that SPF of 35. It is a 7 gram product at $18.50. Now, what it does say on the website is that new packaging is being phased in for this product, so it'll be interesting to see what it's going to be. I think this packaging is just fine. It works really well. The cap closes really well. I've never had it come across any issues with this packaging, so I am looking forward to seeing what that happens. What it says about this guy is that it's a creamy opaque cream concealer. Obviously. It's long wearing with invisible coverage, and it's also highly concentrated and contains antioxidants, so vitamin A and vitamin E. And it also contains silica to help absorb oil, but it's not like particularly drying or anything like that on the skin, but it's dry enough to cling onto the skin and, you know, really conceal those blemishes and stuff like that. So one thing I need to say about this is that it also, okay, so these guys come with 13 different shades, but there's also corrector shades in the Pro Store that come in 8 different shades. These come in interesting shades like light peach, blonde ash, burnt coral, deep brown, stuff like that. So they're really more for the more professional makeup artist. And MAC have also just recently come out with these new palettes, which are going to be Pro Store only as well, and those are called the Pro Conceal and Correct palettes. So they're going to come with a mixture of some of your normal like these kind of guys, the NTs, the NC30s, the NW20s and that, and then a mixture of some of the corrector palettes as well. I'm not exactly sure, or the correct colours, I'm not exactly sure of the pricing, but you can see all that on the website. An interesting thing to note as well about this Studio Finish Concealer is that it is almost identical in formulation to the Full Coverage Foundation by MAC. Now, the only difference really is that this doesn't contain the same sun protective properties, so it doesn't have the titanium dioxide or the, you know, the sunblock, the SPF in it. and there is like one other small difference in the ingredients, but in application and all that, they pretty much go on the exact same. If you read the ingredients or the properties on the website, this will pretty much claim the same thing, that, what did I say, that it's creamy, opaque, long wearing, they're water resistant, both of them are water resistant and emollient based as well, so they're really good under like studio conditions and warm lights and stuff like that. So, you know, if you could get your hands on it, you'd nearly be better off going for the the full coverage by MAC, which is, like I said, a pro product. But if you consider the fact that you get 28 grams compared to 7, so like 4 times the amount here, yeah, and I think the pricing of this is going to be about €33, so it's less than twice the price, but you're getting about 4 times the product. So that's one thing you could keep in mind if you are getting your hands on, if you do want to get your hands on those concealers. Now, as far as discontinued concealers go, I think it's worth mentioning that MAC no longer do the Studio Sculpt concealer. It didn't last for very long. I think it was only out for maybe 2 years. It was a very, very like creamy gel, like a soft cream consistency. I didn't love it. I couldn't work with it really well. I found it went on very cakey and just didn't blend well into the skin. I believe some people loved it. I just wasn't one of them, so I don't think it was a big loss that they got rid of it. They also used to do a stick concealer. I think it was just called the Studio Stick Concealer. I personally loved this. A good dupe for that though would be the Revlon Photo Ready Stick Concealer, which I think is very, very similar. And they also used to do a crayon concealer, which I actually have somewhere. Yeah, I have the smallest amount of it left. The Studio Touch Up Concealer. Now, they haven't had this in years, but I actually loved it. I had the NC15. I loved it for highlighting under the brows and say down the centre of my nose and stuff like that. I thought it was a shame that they got rid of that, but those are some of the ones that don't really exist anymore. Another type of product that you would argue and say is concealer is their chromographic pencils that come in, say there'd be a pencil that has one end NC15 and the other end is NW20. Yeah, and then they have 3 different kind of shade ranges of those. They're brilliant for correcting, say, around the lips or maybe around the nose, or for doing like really precise spot concealing. Again, a pro product, but if you can get your hands on them, they're brilliant, especially for professional makeup artists. And then the final thing I have to say about the MAC concealers, yeah, I think that's all my waffling, is for some reason they don't come in NC25. I don't know. If anyone can tell me, I'd love to know. It's an absolute mystery. I do find that you come across a lot of people where the NC20 is a little bit too light and the NC30 is too dark. You do need to mix the both. So I think it's such a shame, especially in Ireland where a lot of people use tan and a lot of people who would be as pale as me who go for quite a natural tan, which would be around an NC25. And again, the NC20 would be too light on blemishes for NC25 concealer because the concealers tend to run a little bit lighter than their foundation equivalents. So I'm not really sure about the reasoning there, but they don't come in the NC25. So if you are an NC25, there's a chance you may need to buy 2 products and mix together. So that's a big kind of downfall, I think, just for the people who fall into that category. Otherwise, I think they're absolutely fantastic products. I'd recommend them all to, you know, their matching people or whoever I think they suit most or whatever. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. I will leave a link down below to my complete guide to the MAC foundations. Like I said, I will do that little update once the new foundation comes in and let you know which ones have been discontinued and stuff like that. And in the meantime, I will chat to you all really soon. So take care, guys, and I'll see you soon. Slán. Bye.